Greetings and welcome to Vivid Voices Microtalk. Today we're chatting with Joel Miller, UX lead at Amgen. Welcome, Joel.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for having me today.
It's a pleasure, and thanks for joining us. Today's topic is converting skeptics into UX champions. And as a lead UX at Amgen and a career of over 28 years in the design industry, I'm guessing that you know a thing or two about championing user experience.
Yeah, it really is my life. With the history, I've actually fell in love with user experience. Seems like 3 lifetimes ago, back in graduate school in the late 80s, early 90s. And, back then it was really kind of a novel concept to be thinking about users and really making design choices around user goals, needs, as opposed to around the technology or the data. And so, I've really been in this area and been concerned with how to help others who may not have that same insight really get it around why it's so important to really take that user-centered approach.
I couldn't agree with you more. I love this topic so much because, most of my hiring managers emphasize the need for the people they bring on their team to have this skill, to understand how to champion UX and why it's important. So let's dive in. Can you tell me a bit about your background and your experience converting skeptical business leaders into real champions?
Sure. How much time do we have again? Really, the time I've been, a professional doing UX work, I've had just a real variety of experiences with, design, leading various teams, global implementations. But I've always worked in organizations that really were not design driven.
Mm-hmm.
And so, being in the biopharma industry in particular, we're not building, designing software, consumer software.
Yeah.
So over the decades, really a big part of what I've done and what I've accomplished has been having those conversations with really leaders at all levels, whether that's, a project leader, a product owner, senior executive, or someone from the C-suite, really trying to help them understand, even in the world where you're not building something, software or digital product directly for consumers necessarily, paying attention to the users, to your design, really is going to make a difference in an important way for the company.
Definitely. It's just so important to have a great experience, and people, I think, are just starting to understand that creating that for their users, regardless of who their users are, is vital. What do you think some of the biggest misconceptions leaders have about UX that you've encountered, and how are you overcoming them, and how have you overcome them?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I would say that a couple of them that come to mind just because, they seem to be recurring. One of the things I seem to get is, your UX, can't you just make it pretty? Just add the right branding, the right fonts and colors, and, call it done. That's enough?
Yeah.
And, in those situations, what I really try to do is shift the conversation away from, the fonts and colors and branding. Not that that's unimportant, but that's not really what's going to drive, a user, a consumer to choose your product. And so it's really handy for me to use what's in everybody's pocket these days, the smartphone, and talk about, think about why people choose one of the 50, 100 calendaring apps or, similar apps that have comparable functionality. Users are choosing things based on the design, based on usability, based on how it really meets the need in the place where I'm actually using that app or those apps. And so, to shift the conversation in that direction, I found to be really helpful.
Yeah.
And another one that I get a lot, especially, working inside large organizations, is our employees have to use it anyway, so why do we really care about about, taking the time, the effort, the investment in this area. And I think for that, it's really helpful to kind of shift the conversation away from the cost and the time, and more towards, gosh, we have this software product, this tool for our staff members. We've paid for it. We're expecting a certain kind of use and business outcome from it. Mm-hmm. And if we're not getting that, then that's a problem. If people are doing elaborate workarounds, or they're just getting so frustrated, it's taking too much time for them to get simple things done, or even that they are kind of giving up. Wouldn't it be better if we actually were able to configure, design, implement, the tools that people use in their day-to-day lives in the workplace to help them actually get the business value out of them? It's not just deployment of a tool and technology, it's actually having people use those tools to have success and get the result that they're expecting.
Yeah, it does seem to be the point. Spending the money to create the tool.
Yeah, it seems so obvious, but it's really remarkable how people can lose that whole notion.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, what's your secret weapon then, and how do you use it for good?
You mean other than my UX invisibility cloak?
That's why
everybody
I didn't see
needs
you
one
on
of
Thursday night.
I think the thing that I have found more than anything that can really transfer someone who's pretty skeptical into being a real champion is involvement. And by that, I mean, taking a senior executive and actually having them observe a usability review with some real users. Nothing gets people's attention more than seeing actual users really struggling with what, should be intuitive about a product that you're trying to, put on the market or have people in your organization use. Yeah. And so I find that more than anything else really kind of gets the attention, and also gets their perspective around, wow, there's something we're missing here. And oh wait, this whole UX thing, maybe that is the thing that's going to help me here.
Yeah, there's an actual real solution.
Exactly. And so they suddenly understand the problem. So the solution that you can bring really now fits into their world much more effectively.
That's an awesome secret weapon. But you can't win every time. How do you know when you're in a battle that can't be won?
I think I kind of know when I'm in an uphill battle, when I start seeing a team that really isn't making any sincere effort to actually understand users or really involve them in any meaningful substantive way. And despite kind of coaching, trying to influence, that will happen. And so what I kind of do in that situation is, I'm very I think it's very important to kind of document, the findings, all my recommendations, because I know, and I've seen this movie multiple times, at some point, somebody on the team is going to finally wake up and go, oh my gosh, we're really missing something here. And by having, the prototypes or the usability review findings or whatever it is well documented, it really, number one, allows the person who finally seen the light to get re-engaged, and also kind of builds a bridge so that, the next UX person who's involved has a better foundation to work from.
That makes complete sense. Yeah, documentation. Who knew that? That you have it in your back pocket when the time came and the aha moment occurred.
It's our friend.
Moments are our friend. They are. What other advice would you offer to UX professionals who are actively working to make the case for UX in their organizations?
I think part of the other advice I would offer is, stop talking and start doing. There's nothing other than the involvement, which we've already talked about a bit, that I think really helps people understand than, rolling up your sleeves and actually doing it. And whether that's, even without permission, build the prototype, do the usability review, whatever it is, keep it small, keep it focused and time bound, but actually do it. And then stop talking and show the value that, the techniques that we as UX professionals have at our fingertips, what value that can bring to the team or to the problem at hand that the team might be trying to work through. And I think that really is another very valuable approach that just works time and time again.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes complete sense again, and I think it's so helpful to have a really solid overview like this for folks who are, in the position of not really knowing how to approach the challenge of championing with those who just have not yet been converted. So this is great advice, Joel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate, I know how busy you are. I really do. And Amgen keeps you going, and there's a lot going on at Amgen. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. This is an important topic. And, frankly, I think everyone that watches it is going to benefit from your insight and from your experience.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Laura. It's been a lot of fun.
It sure has. And meanwhile, I'm Laura Hunter. Please check our website at www.vividresources.com and sign up for our YouTube channel, where this and other microtalks and webinars from Vivid Voices can be found. Thanks again, Joel. Appreciate all your time today. And thank you so much for joining us. Bye for now.